War II and Korea. 1926 and 1998. By the summer of 1917, World War I was unavoidable for the United States. The German submarine assault on shipping in the Great Britain had only intensified, and a call to war for the U.S. to enter it because of the sinking of the British Lusitania by 1915. That was the catalyst that turned the tide for American opinion towards Germany in World War I and called for arms. By February, the Congress passed $250 million, which is an inconceivable amount of money in 1917, to prepare for appropriations to prepare the United States for the war. By March of the same year, that sinking, and the sinking of the Lusitania, and 4 U.S. merchant vessels by Germany, well, that just put the final nail in the coffin for the United States to retaliate against Germany and the rest of the axis of Europe. Now, there was a young man in Wisconsin who went by the name of Leo. We're not going to mention his last name because that's not what this video is about, but his position to it is. And Leo was a very talented musician. And as a result of that, and as a result of all the violence growing up around this young man, he was drafted into the Wisconsin National Reserve. And because he was a musician, he was assigned in the Wisconsin Reserve to be a bugler. Now, for those of you who really don't know much about what buglers did in World War I, and even in previous wars, I can assure you that their risk of life was unimaginable. Now, you have to understand, you know, prior to the beginning of World War I, Americans kind of knew what they were getting themselves into. The horrors of the Civil War and even the Spanish-American War was still fresh in many of the veterans that were still alive at the time, and it was shared and it was conveyed through small talk and conversation and published books and newspaper articles, reminding people of how costly the war was and what America endured and what we had to sacrifice to achieve those victories of those wars. It was still very fresh in the minds of people, ladies and gentlemen. You have to place yourself back into the time period and kind of squeeze yourself in and get a rhythm for what was going on, what people were reading, what people were thinking, what people were watching, and most importantly, what people were thinking. And even here in Beaver County, folks knew what was going to happen. Folks kind of had a good idea of where World War I was going to go, although they could not imagine how bad it was really going to be. But if you had the unfortunate position of being in the line of buglers, you had a tough job, because let me tell you very briefly what buglers did. It was a very hazardous position in any infantry unit. One of the reasons why was because not only did you administer the tap calls, but the bugler had to blurt out command signals for the army troops on the battlefields. And to do so required them to stand tall, play the instrument with all their breath and all their might. It was a very physical effort. And as a result of that, they were a target, a primary one. Because the enemy knew that buglers played the role that they did. They knew that they were conveying information on the battlefield. And to the enemy, that was a strategic objective to eradicate in their favor, you see. So it got me to thinking, well, you know, I wonder if we had buglers here from World War I in Beaver County. Sure enough, I found this young man's grave right here. And guys, prepare yourself for a shock. And just read how young this man was. I'm going to move his flag respectfully. John Haler Mason. Let me position here so you can read it yourself. 1901 to 1918, bugler, Company H, 60th Infantry, 5th Division, World War I. How old does that make him? I have tried the past couple of weeks, even the past couple of months, of trying to obtain information about this young man. And the only thing that I've come up with is that he was from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. He was killed in action. He was a bugler. I do not know how he was able to come into the war at such a young age, because he looks like he appears to be about 17 years old. I don't know the date of his birth or the date of his death, just the years. So it's difficult to determine. The war records on this man are scanty. I cannot find anything about him other than what's written on his tombstone and the fact that he was from Beaver Falls. The reason why I know that is because I obtained a few articles from the Beaver County Times in which this information's been provided. I'll leave a link below this video where you can click on that and see for yourself, and his name will show up and it will tell you that it's from Beaver Falls. And this article was a list of casualties from Beaver County in World War I. There's virtually nothing known of this young man, and I can't think of a grave that I've ever seen in Beaver County and beyond, and I visited a lot of cemeteries in my time, where someone so young as this had such a dangerous position for his age, and to be a product of that. He played in that arena and he paid the ultimate price. Without question, it would seem. It appears to me he has no family anymore. He was certainly too young to get married and have father children. There's nobody here to remember him. There's never any flowers on his grave. And guys, I can tell you now, he is probably the youngest casualty, one of the youngest casualties in the entire history of World War I, in the entire history of World War II, in the entire history of Vietnam and Korea. This is just mind-blowing. I don't know if the dates on here are a mistake, but I seriously doubt it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing this series because it's so important to remember our veterans. It is so important to remember their sacrifice, because what they did and the ultimate sacrifice that they voluntarily performed is the reason why I'm standing here now doing what I'm doing. So, Mr. Mason, thank you for your sacrifice, and I hope you're in a much better place, because I can't imagine the horror and violence you witnessed at your age, and for you to succumb to it. Guys, do yourself a favor today. Go find a hero in your neighborhood. You have them. Go find a veteran and shake their hand and thank them for what they've done. This is just one story. I have several more coming, but I thought this story was unique beyond anything that I've ever researched in my life. I had to look 5 times when I saw this man's grave, and I saw the dates, and I'm like, this just can't be. This is just absolutely mind-blowing. Once again, thank you, Mr. Mason, for your sacrifice. All right, guys, that's all for today. I will see you in the next video. Got a lot more stuff coming for you. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. Thank you to all the welcoming newcomers, and I hope you enjoy your day. And I'll end the video by one more person here.